The Wang Jianming case. I was a police officer working at the Public Security Bureau in Hailin City, Heilongjiang Province, on January the 17th, 1994, at 5 p.m. While on duty, I received an emergency call through the citizens' hotline. On the other end of the line was a young girl, breathing heavily and crying. Initially, I thought she might be lost, but I could never have anticipated what was coming. The first thing she said was, "Officer, please come quickly. My father has been shot. He's a police officer too, and he's been killed." Upon hearing the words, "Someone has been killed," and realizing it was a fellow officer, I found it hard to believe. However, the panic in her voice made me suspicious. I tried to gather more details, but before I could ask further, she said, even more frantically, "My father is Wang Jianming. He works at the Hailin Public Security Bureau. I have siblings at home. They might still be alive. Please hurry." Hearing the name Wang Jianming left me in shock. Wasn't he my colleague? I knew his family, and I knew the address the girl mentioned was correct. There was no more doubt. I immediately reported the situation to my superiors. Given that the suspect was armed, a large police force was dispatched, ambulances were mobilized, and I rushed to the scene. Unfortunately, upon arrival, the scene was chaotic and horrifying. Blood splattered everywhere. The house was a nightmare. Wang Jianming and his 3 children lay in pools of blood. The sight left me numb, as if my strength had been drained from my body. Witnessing such a tragedy involving a colleague's family, every officer present clenched their fists in grief and anger. I silently swore that the murderer would be brought to justice as soon as possible. Who would dare to storm into a police officer's home in broad daylight and commit such a heinous act? This case was part of a series of murders that shocked Hailin City in the 1990s. After this tragic event, the police found Wang Jianming's 17-year-old daughter, the one who had called for help. Fortunately, she was unharmed. Though it was painful for her, the police needed her to witness the crime scene, as she was the only living witness. Her testimony was crucial, and without her return to the scene, solving the case would have been far more difficult. She understood this, and despite her fear, she composed herself to help the investigation. According to the girl's testimony, it was lunchtime when the incident occurred. Her father had just prepared a meal, and asked her to get dishes from the kitchen. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Wang Jianming opened it, and 2 men entered, one fat, one thin. He seemed surprised to see them but smiled, and invited them to join for a meal. The 2 men accepted his invitation, and the 3 sat on the sofa. The girl, busy in the kitchen, heard their conversation but thought little of it, assuming they were friends of her father. She continued setting the table until 2 loud gunshots rang out from the living room. Peeking into the room, she saw the 2 men had pulled out guns and shot her father. Blood covered the floor, and she was stunned, unable to understand why her father's friends would kill him. Her whole body trembled uncontrollably, but her survival instinct kicked in. She rushed to the bathroom and locked the door. The assailant heard the noise and tried to open the door. In despair, she jumped out of the 2nd-story window. Though terrified, she knew it was her only chance to survive. This testimony provided police with 2 crucial clues. First, the assailants knew Wang Jianming and had a seemingly good relationship with him, and second, these men were likely experienced criminals. Following the girl's testimony, the police found bloodied fingerprints on the bathroom door left by the assailants, along with spent shell casings. Ballistic tests revealed a shocking discovery. The bullets matched those used in previous police murders in 1991 and 1993. Specifically, the gun used to kill Wang Jianming had been stolen from Officer Ding Goxuan, who was murdered in 1993. The fingerprints also matched those from earlier cases. Looking back at 1991 and 1993, the police revisited the unsolved murders of officers Zhao Yuanzi and Ding Goxuan. In Zhao's case, both he and his young daughter were murdered at home, and his police-issued firearm was stolen. Similarly, in 1993, Officer Ding Goksuan and his wife were killed, and his gun was also taken. Both cases left the police with few clues. But now, with the same gun and fingerprint evidence linking all three cases, the investigation gained momentum. The police intensified their efforts, forming a special task force to solve the interconnected cases. A critical development came when a criminal named Wang Jianming was arrested after attempting to flee from a taxi in Liaoning Province. He had a history of violent crimes, including the murder of a bus driver during a robbery attempt. Cornered by police, Wang Jianming refused to surrender and was ultimately shot dead by a sniper on January 30, 1994. The cases of Officer Wang Jianming and the other murdered officers exposed a series of brutal, cold-blooded attacks on law enforcement families. The police vowed to bring the remaining suspects to justice and close the chapter on one of the most harrowing murder sprees in Hailin City's history. Wang Jianming was shot dead after the police inspected the gun in his hand. They were shocked to discover that he was one of the murderers involved in a series of police killings and gun robberies. Two guns found on Wang were identified as those belonging to two deceased police officers, whose weapons had been stolen. But hold on, why was he carrying two guns when he was alone? Could it have been to deceive the police into thinking there was only one criminal? If it weren't for the daughter of the police officer Wang Jianming, who was murdered during the massacre at their home, the police might have believed it. Fortunately, they realized the truth: there was still another killer on the loose. The police quickly went to Wang Jianming's house and interrogated his family. Initially, Wang's wife denied knowing anything and insisted her husband had no accomplices. However, the police noticed her unusually calm demeanor, which raised suspicion. The officers then shifted their focus to Wang's two children, reasoning that children might not be able to lie as easily. Under questioning, the naive children revealed several important clues. According to them, Wang Jianming had a close friend, a policeman named Zhang Shijin, whom they called Uncle Zhang. 2 days before Wang fled, Uncle Zhang visited their home late at night and handed Wang a letter. After that, their father left the house and never returned. Upon hearing this, the police were convinced that Zhang Shijin was the second suspect. Investigating Wang's social circle, they identified Zhang as the deputy director in charge of administrative affairs at the Public Security Bureau of Hailin City in Hailin. Zhang was also an important member of a special task force. Why would a task force member be involved in such a crime? Initially, the police found it hard to believe, but after recalling how Wang Jianming had always been one step ahead of their investigations, it made sense. Wang had evaded arrest after learning he was wanted for a rape case, likely tipped off by Zhang. The interrogation of Zhang Shijin began, but as an experienced police officer, Zhang skillfully dodged their questions, remaining calm and collected. He claimed that his relationship with Wang was based solely on friendship and denied any involvement in the murders. The interrogators struggled to make any progress as Zhang's years of experience and knowledge of interrogation tactics kept them at bay. Just as the situation seemed hopeless, Deputy Director of the Criminal Investigation Department, Xu Zhikong, personally took over the interrogation. He took a different approach, casually chatting with Zhang before suddenly dropping the bombshell. Actually, Wang Jianming isn't dead. He was revived at Liaoning Hospital and is now out of danger. This revelation made Zhang visibly anxious, a reaction that confirmed Zhu's suspicions. Xu knew he had the upper hand, especially with another crucial piece of evidence. It turned out that Zhang had asked a fellow officer, Li Guan, for the address of Ding Goksun, a police officer murdered on June 10, 1993. Li had drawn a map of Ding's residence for Zhang, and that drawing was still in Li's home. After 12 hours of interrogation, Zhang Shijin was exhausted, and Xu seized the opportunity to confront him with the evidence. Xu asked, "Have you ever been to Ding Goksun's house?" Zhang denied it, but Xu then presented the marked map showing Ding's house. Stunned by the evidence, Zhang's defenses began to crumble. Taking advantage of Zhang's vulnerability, Xu presented more stolen items found during a search of Zhang's home, including 4 gold rings and 2 gold necklaces. Zhang finally broke down, admitting, "I've worked at the Public Security Bureau for over 10 years. I knew this day would come." After 10 days of intense interrogation, Zhang confessed to being involved in 6 murders, including the cases on January the 17th and April the 22nd. Between October the 22nd, 1991, and October the 17th, 1994, Zhang Shijin and Wang Qinyan committed 6 crimes, killing 17 people, all for money. Their killing spree was shockingly senseless. Despite brutally murdering innocent people, the pair only managed to steal 3,000 yuan in cash and gold jewelry, totaling about 10,000 yuan. 6 families and 17 lives were lost for a mere 44 million yuan. Zhang revealed that their first crime was the murder of Officer Zhao Yuzi on April 19, 1991, whom they targeted for his gun. They attacked him in his home, where Wang bludgeoned Zhao unconscious with a hammer, and then both men strangled him to death. Tragically, Zhao's 9-year-old daughter was also strangled in her sleep to avoid leaving witnesses. They stole Zhao's pistol and 50 yuan before fleeing. Their next target was Song King-kun, who they mistakenly believed to have a suitcase full of money. When they found only women's clothing inside, they still killed him and his girlfriend out of fear of being exposed. Over the next few years, Zhang and Wang continued their murderous rampage, targeting affluent families. In one case, they brutally killed a family of 5, including 3 young children, all for a few pieces of gold jewelry. The final murder was carefully planned. They targeted Wang Jianming, a wealthy traffic policeman, after Wang Qinyan observed his home and deduced he had both money and firearms. Zhang and Wang broke into Wang's house on October 17, 1994, and when Wang resisted, they shot him and his 3 children, killing them instantly. However, one of Wang's daughters managed to escape and alert the police. Fearing capture, Zhang and Wang fled the scene but left behind vital evidence, including Wang's fingerprints. Though Wang Qinyan was shot dead, Zhang Shijin was ultimately arrested, bringing their brutal reign of terror to an end. Justice had finally caught up with the police officer turned criminal, Zhang Shijin, who could no longer hide behind his badge.
What do you think about this issue? Please leave a comment below for everyone to know and discuss. Goodbye and see you again.